must be our goal and our guide. And all that we strive for as a human family, dignity and hope, progress and prosperity, depends on peace. But peace depends on us.
I'm joining the World Health Organization's Safe Hands Challenge. Hand washing is one of the most effective ways of preventing the spread of coronavirus. Wash your hands with soap and water for at least 40 to 60 seconds.
Seven tips for protecting yourself against the coronavirus. 1. Wash your hands regularly with soap and water or with an alcohol-based gel. 2. Need to cough or sneeze? Do it into a tissue or a bent elbow and then wash your hands. 3. Stay at least a meter away from other people, especially if they are coughing, sneezing, or have a fever. 4. Avoid touching your eyes, nose, and mouth. 5. Avoid direct contact with live animals. If this is impossible, make sure to clean your hands afterwards. 6. Do not eat raw or poorly cooked animal products and wash your hands, clean surfaces, and utensils afterwards. 7. If you develop a fever, cough, or difficulty in breathing, seek medical care.
So my fellow Kenyans, on Friday, March 6th of this year, the government of Kenya received confirmation of the first case of COVID-19, more commonly known as coronavirus. As you may recall, when we first announced the confirmation of the first case, we did state that we had traced 27 persons who had come into contact with the first patient. We have since tested all 27 people at our National Influenza Center, and today we have received confirmation of 2 more cases of the coronavirus. The 2 have tested positive as a result of coming into contact with the first patient. Our health officials have already moved them into Kenyatta National Hospital isolation facility. The medical teams are closely monitoring the patients who are reported to be in stable condition and responding well to treatment, and this indeed gives us hope. Fellow Kenyans, my government has been working to monitor the spread of this virus, and we have set up necessary containment and treatment protocols across the country. However, following the results of the 2 additional cases, we are now, this evening, directing the following additional protocols. Number 1, the government is suspending travel for all persons coming into Kenya from any country with reported coronavirus cases. Number 2, only Kenyan citizens and foreigners with valid residence permits will be allowed to come in, provided they proceed on self-quarantine or to a government-designated quarantine facility. This will take effect within the next 48 hours to cater for any passengers who may be en route. This directive will remain in effect for the next 30 days or as varied by the National Emergency Response Committee. Number 3, all persons who have come into Kenya in the last 14 days must self-quarantine. If any person exhibits symptoms such as cough or fever, they should present themselves to the nearest health facility for testing. Number 4, we have suspended learning in all our education institutions with immediate effect. Consequently, and to facilitate a phased approach, primary and secondary day schools are to suspend operations from tomorrow. For those in boarding schools, the school administration is to ensure that students are home by Wednesday, the 18th March 2020, while universities and tertiary institutions are to close by Friday, 20th March 2020. Where possible, as number 5, government offices, businesses, and companies are encouraged to allow employees to work from home, with the exception of employees working in critical or essential services. Number 6, in order to avoid the risk of transmission through physical handling of money, we encourage the use of cashless transactions, such as mobile money, M-Pesa and otherwise, and credit cards, and we appeal to mobile operators and banks to take note of the situation that we are in and to reduce the cost of transactions during this period. Number 7, in line with the directive to avoid crowded places, citizens are encouraged to A, avoid congregating, including in places of worship, B, minimize attendance to social gatherings, including weddings and funerals, and restrict the same to immediate family members. C, we call for people to avoid crowded places, including shopping malls and entertainment premises. And D, to minimize congestion in public transport whenever possible. And lastly, E, the limitation of visitors to hospitalized patients in both public and private hospitals. Number 8, hospitals and shopping malls are encouraged to provide soap, water, hand sanitizers, and ensure that all their premises are regularly cleaned and disinfected. Fellow Kenyans, globally, the impact of the virus is still unfolding. I want to assure you that my administration is at the forefront of assessing, containing, and managing this pandemic in our country. Some of the measures that we have taken today may cause inconvenience, but I want to assure you that they are designated and designed to ensure that we effectively contain the spread of this deadly virus. I want to appeal to each and every one of you to strictly observe these measures, but I would also appeal for calm. Kenyans, please let us avoid misinformation that causes panic and anxiety. Let us all remember that as Kenyans, we have been faced with other crises in the past, but we have always triumphed by coming together in the spirit of national unity and cooperation. Every single Kenyan has a responsibility and a duty to play his or her part in safeguarding our nation and the lives of our people.
7 tips for protecting yourself against the coronavirus. 1. Wash your hands regularly with soap and water or with an alcohol-based gel. 2. Need to cough or sneeze? Do it into a tissue or a bent elbow and then wash your hands. 3. Stay at least a meter away from other people, especially if they are coughing, sneezing, or have a fever. 4. Avoid touching your eyes, nose, and mouth. 5. Avoid direct contact with live animals. If this is impossible, make sure to clean your hands afterwards. 6. Do not eat raw or poorly cooked animal products and wash your hands, clean surfaces, and utensils afterwards. 7. If you develop a fever, cough, or difficulty in breathing, seek medical care.
Good morning to you, and thank you so much for joining us for another edition of Good Morning Africa, coming to you all the way from the Kenya's capital here in Nairobi. We are still grappling with this coronavirus, pandemic, and I'm sure the rest of Africa and indeed the rest of the world is trying to find a solution and trying to make sure that people are safe wherever they are. My name is Miriam Ogutu, and of course, the television station is Punchline Africa TV, and our business is the African business, where we get to really express and talk about the things that are happening in this continent. And of course, at the top of the hour, 12 p.m., there we normally come with the diaspora dispatches, where we really get into the African stories. But right now, I just want us to go to the State House here in Nairobi, where President Uhuru Kenyatta is set to address the nation from State House here on economic decisions with respect to the coronavirus outbreak. A lot of economies across the world has been affected, and Kenya is no exception. So right now, as we speak, I think the press conference has already started. So I just want us to go over there, and then we shall come back and continue with the show. Good morning.
actually have those sort of loans. So in that sense, I think this is will help them, particularly the SMEs. At the same time, the costs of all this extension and so no cost to the borrower, and also other measures that I would like to mention to you, Your Excellency, is that in order to further facilitate the use of mobile digital platforms, banks will waive all charges for balance inquiry. So today and now, many banks charge a particular fee for just checking my balance on your phone. So that actually would be eliminated, which I think would therefore facilitate matters. Finally, of course, as I mentioned earlier, the banks will ensure that this transfer between mobile money and the wallets and the bank accounts will be costless, meaning there are no charges. And this should have been eliminated a couple of days ago. So those are the measures, Your Excellency, that we have agreed on and will be implemented from today going forward. A few other things I would just mention to finish, Your Excellency, is that we as a community of institutions, we are very concerned about this coronavirus, and this is just the first step. We'll come back as we see how it evolves. Secondly, we also want to push a lot the communication about the virus and what to do. So all our outlets, we will go through a sort of a campaign, public awareness campaign, to ensure that the public understands more about what they should do with regard to the coronavirus. This is, in a sense, a public service from this sector. Of course, in the end, Your Excellency, we do believe that these measures they are start and they'll begin to become effective. But at the same time, we do understand that as we go forward, there will be other problems that we may have to deal with, and we do agree that we need to work in a coordinated fashion with other arms of government, and indeed also, let's say, other measures from the Treasury or other measures that maybe are being contemplated to support this sector. That's what we wanted to tell you, Your Excellency, but what I'll do now is turn over the microphone to Joshua Igara, who obviously can tell us more things. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency. I will re-emphasize 3 items that the Governor has raised this morning. So one is just to confirm to you that the banking sector will work closely with every single Kenyan. So the concern that the Kenyans out there have about their loans, their payments, the services, we're here to assure you that the industry, all our members and all the banks will stand to work with you in partnership of these issues. I'm confident that we've been in crisis before, but we pull together as a team, even in this environment, to get the solutions that Kenyans require. So there is no need to say that the banks will not listen. So all the banks here will address the issue about the loans, whether they are personal loans, SME loans, large customer loans today, to reschedule. The Governor has spoken about the period of 1 year, or to be able to look at moratoriums in the period for which they may not have funds to carry on their business in this particular period. And also if they're looking for facilities from the banks, they will be in a position to support them in this particular period. This is very important, Your Excellency. Even for SMEs and small enterprises who perhaps their goods have not arrived on time, the banks will be able to buy. So what I'm asking all our customers for the bank is to reach out to any of the institutions that they bank with today to get the relief to get their business that is running. The second one, Your Excellency, is about the mobile money. Because customers today, between their bank accounts and the mobile wallets, is very much today very interconnected. And as announced just days ago from all the payment service providers, led by Safaricom, we have zero-rated all the charges from our bank accounts into the mobile wallet as effective from Tuesday. But most of the banks will apply that, Your Excellency, from today. So now that we have the bigger limit, so customers should be able to use their money from where they are going on a daily basis. And we have also, Your Excellency, mentioned on the banking channels. So But each bank has already communicated, and we are able to have the transactions on their mobile phone, whether they are making a payment, whether they are making a saving. And this will apply also for the mobile loans. Your Excellency, the customers are today also using the mobile to borrow a number of their money. It's not just the loans to the bank. And that will also apply for all the customers that we have. So we're confirming that if these measures, we're quick enough to come back to you as we listen to you on Sunday. The banks are able to stand firm, and we will be, because it's an essential service. A number of our banks, you may see some measures have been instituted on the branch levels or in our agent levels, but we will continue to provide the service and support our customers, Your Excellency, during this period. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah. Once again, good morning, everybody. Governor, Josh, and indeed all your colleagues here today. I want to first of all thank you for finding time out of your busy schedule to join us this morning. Secondly, to apologize for coming a bit late, but as you know, we are living in extraordinary circumstances, and there are other issues, but I don't want to mix things. You'll hear from the Minister of Health in a little while. But most importantly, my sincere appreciation to each and every one of you and to your colleagues who are not here for the way that you have responded, and responded quickly. As you all know, what we're dealing with today is primarily a health crisis. And we are focused on dealing with it as a health crisis. But realistically, and unfortunately, it is a health crisis that is bound to have financial and economic impact. And not to the positive, but rather to the negative. And as such, we need to pull together as Kenyans and to see how we shall overcome not just the health crisis, but the associated issues that are most likely to develop. You all know our tourism industry is going to take a hit. You all know our restaurant businesses, our small traders who depend on imported goods, which are now delayed because of slowdown in manufacturing in various parts of the world. And all of these individuals depend on you in one way or another. So your understanding to the plight that they are going through is something that I truly appreciate. We talked on Sunday about the need to encourage our people to use mobile money platforms more than cash as a way to both help reduce the health risk, and you have responded, and I think that is something that is proving you are not just business people and bankers, but you are also patriots, and this is something that we are grateful, because by increasing that amount, you are allowing people to have less contact with cash, but still be able to conduct normal business. So that is truly appreciated. There will be those who unfortunately may be forced to take half pay, or may be forced to be laid off for a period because hotels are empty, and so on and so forth. So again, your understanding in helping those Kenyans overcome any hardships that they may have as a result of that, again, is something truly appreciated, because we're going through, they're going through those problems through no fault of their own. It is just the circumstance that has approached. So, as the banking fraternity, I appreciate you are the first, and you have responded immediately. And truly, we appreciate, because at the end of the day, we are all Kenyans. We depend on each other, we need each other, and Kenya cannot survive or succeed without all of us playing our part. So on my own behalf, on behalf indeed of the government and the people of Kenya, I'm grateful for your responses. Indeed, as Minister Yatani has said, we are also looking at other areas where, from a fiscal point of view, we want to see what we can also do to support our people and our country during this difficult time. And we shall continue to engage with yourself, with other members of the private sector, to see how we can all work together to alleviate any difficulties that may arise to our people as a result of this problem. And in due course, we shall be briefing you. As I said, and I have consistently said, this is a time for us to come together as Kenyans. This is a time for us to pull together. And I am convinced and have a deep belief that if we do so, we shall overcome this particular problem, and Kenya shall eventually succeed and be better ultimately as a result of the way together we shall handle this particular scenario. So once again, like I said, on my own behalf, on behalf of the government, on behalf of the people, I appreciate your input. We shall continue to work together as we begin to work on how we shall minimize the financial and economic implications of this crisis, and we shall continue to communicate to Kenyans as we move along. But this initial and immediate response by you is something that is and will continue to be appreciated. I would like to take just this opportunity to say and to reiterate again to all Kenyans, we must play our part. We must do that which we must do. This is not the time to take undue advantage on our people. And again, as I said on Sunday, and I repeat again, even to our traders, our supermarket owners, do your business. Do it right. Do it justly. Nobody in this country has ever had a problem with somebody making profit. But indeed, it is highly immoral if we take advantage of an unfortunate situation to make super profit. And we will continue, as I said, and we have started already, to take action on those traders who are hiking prices and with no reason, just to make extra profit. We are going to take action on those people, and because it is criminal for you to really use an unfortunate situation to enrich yourself. So please, when it comes to hand sanitizers, when it comes to food, when it comes to goods and services that people need, I am appealing to all our business fraternity. Act like our friends in the banking sector have acted today. Act in the interest of our people. Act in the interest of our country. That way, we will all be able to survive and to see ourselves through this unfortunate situation. So once again, thank you. I appreciate you. And for sure, Joshua and Governor, we will continue to meet, to dialogue. Yeah, this is not about forcing people. It's about us discussing, engaging with one another, and finding solutions that work for all of us, all 47 million of us. And I appreciate this as a first start, and we shall continue to engage with each other as we move forward. Asante, Mungu awabariki, Mungu awalinde, na Mungu alinde taifa letu la Kenya. Asanteni sana. Thank you very much. Thank you. Really appreciate it.
7 tips for protecting yourself against the coronavirus. 1. Wash your hands regularly with soap and water or with an alcohol-based gel. 2. Need to cough or sneeze? Do it into a tissue or a bent elbow and then wash your hands. 3. Stay at least a meter away from other people, especially if they are coughing, sneezing, or have a fever. 4. Avoid touching your eyes, nose, and mouth. 5. Avoid direct contact with live animals. If this is impossible, make sure to clean your hands afterwards. 6. Do not eat raw or poorly cooked animal products and wash your hands, clean surfaces and utensils afterwards. 7. If you develop a fever, cough, or difficulty in breathing, seek medical care.
Welcome back, and that was a press conference with President Uhuru Kenyatta, who was joined by the Kenyan bankers community here in the country at State House in Nairobi. And very interesting is how even the setting was. I think they tried to sit a meter apart from each other, if at all you're watching that press conference. And of course, the Bankers Association of Kenya, led by the central bank governor, Mr. Patrick Njoroge there. And a lot of things, very important points came from that. And let's just go through the key things that President Uhuru Kenyatta reiterated this morning. He said this is a health crisis that is bound to have financial and economic impact. I think after having been briefed, especially by this bankers community, it appears as though this is something that is going to have a huge impact, especially on the financial and economic situation in this country. And Kenyans are going to feel the pinch. And so he asked, or he beseeched Kenyans to pull together so that the country can overcome issues that are expected to come out of this crisis, the COVID-19, the coronavirus crisis that has not just affected Kenya or Africa, has affected the whole world. I remember it started from China, and right now it is something that the world is grappling with. And so he called on bankers. He commended the bankers and he called them patriots. And also he said the government is looking for ways to support Kenyans during this period. And so and he also insisted that Kenya, of course, will emerge better as a country and as a people. He also said that there will be minimal financial, there will be of course financial implications. I think I've said that. And also he castigated the traders who seem to have taken advantage of this situation. And if you go to a lot of supermarkets in Kenya today, or a lot of stores across the country, especially in the urban areas, for the people who are aware of what the hand sanitizer is, people from the village, they're fine, they'll just wash their hands with soap and water, and that's it. And so you find that somebody goes to a supermarket and buys all the supplies and the hand sanitizer section, and the rest of Kenyans who came to the supermarket to look for the same don't get. So he came out and he said this is very immoral. And also for the supermarkets and the traders who have hiked the prices of this very essential goods right now to take advantage of a very unfortunate situation. He said this is immoral and this is also criminal. Those are the words by President Uhuru Kenyatta, and he's asking even the traders to act in the interest of the people of Kenya and also of the country, because this situation is not permanent. It's a very temporary situation. We don't know how long it's going to go, but the financial and the economic implications will be felt by every Kenyan living in this country, especially those in the low end of the stick. And so earlier, before the president spoke, the Central Bank of Kenya Governor, Mr. Patrick Njoroge, came out, and I'll just look at the key pointers by Mr. Njoroge that perhaps I'm sure Kenyans will really appreciate. And one of the things that he said that banks will seek to provide relief to borrowers on their personal loans based on individual circumstances arising from the pandemic. And also he reiterated that to ensure that COVID-19 is not transmitted via cash, all cash existing banks will be quarantined for 1 week. And he said that mobile money transactions shall be enhanced with the limit per transaction now up to 150,000 and monthly limit of 1 million eliminated. Remember, before then, there's a certain amount you could not exceed if you're sending money through the mobile money transfer. But now they're saying that the limit has been increased to 150,000 Kenya shillings per day, and there was a monthly, maximum that was 1 million. That is the much money you could transact in a month if you're transacting money through your mobile phone. But right now, that has been lifted, and there's no maximum of which you can transact in a month. You can transact over 1 million. That is for now. And also President Uhuru Kenyatta added that I think I've mentioned that the pandemic is bound to leave financial and economic impact, and not positive but rather very negative. And also just to add on what the CBK Governor Patrick Njoroge said, that all bank outlets will undertake an awareness campaign of the coronavirus to sensitize the public. So that are just some of the things that have come out through that press conference that was taking place there at State House Nairobi, where the Kenya Bankers Association, together led by the CBK governor, that is the Central Bank of Kenya, Governor Mr. Patrick Njoroge, they were there to update the president on the financial impact the coronavirus will have on the country, and perhaps some of the measures, if put in place, could make the spread of coronavirus low in terms of buying things through the note. So Kenyans are being encouraged to have cashless transactions, and we know Kenya is leading in the world in terms of the mobile money transfer, and so you're being encouraged, if you are going to buy anything. A lot of major stores nowadays, they have the pay bill, I think. So you go there, you do your purchases, and then you pay through the pay bill, and so you avoid buying through cash. I know this is something that Kenyans are still grappling with, and perhaps a lot of them do not understand even the implications, or the role, if they do that, how that will go in as far as elimination of the spread of the coronavirus. Yesterday I was watching a very interesting news item in one of the local television stations, and they were interviewing these people who operate, we call them boda boda, but it's the motorcycle, I think, taxi service, and they're all over, not just in Kenya, in Uganda, I don't know if they're in Tanzania, and then in Nigeria they're very, very famous there. I think they call them Okada, if I'm not wrong, they're in Nigeria. So these people, the new requirements by the Ministry of Transport for the safety of a passenger, then you have to give them a helmet. And so they were saying, so they're saying this same helmet that the first passenger wore, if I was to carry the next passenger, that is the same, helmet that they'll wear. And at this point, others didn't even know what the sanitizer was. So that means he will give the same helmet to the next passenger, and it will not have been sanitized. So imagine if the first passenger who was carried through that had a coronavirus, and then the second and the third and the fourth and the fifth, and up to 10 people who will use that helmet in a day will be exposed to that virus. You see, these are some of the challenges that perhaps needs to be really, really thought through. And yesterday in one of the dailies, we saw that public transport now is the weakest link when it comes to the spread of the coronavirus. And when you look at instances like that, that tells you really this contributes to a higher risk of contracting this virus. And also one of the operators said, I really don't care about this coronavirus. If somebody came here and told me, take me to a certain place, I'll just tell them, hop in, let's go. I'll not even care. Do you have coronavirus? Where are you from? Where have you come from? My business is to take a passenger from point A to point B. That's it. So the rest, they don't really care about. I don't know if this is out of ignorance, or they just don't have enough information, or they just out there to make a living, and so that supersedes and everything else, including putting their lives at risk. So when they were talking there, we saw that the banks wants to create more awareness. I think more awareness needs to be created even outside of the banks, so that Kenyans really get to understand this situation is very serious. As much as we feel it is devastating that the parts of the world and the high levels of new contractions are being recorded, but in Africa it's really creeping in, and every day we wake up. Right now, as we speak, 27 African countries have recorded 348 coronavirus cases, according to the World Health Organization, as we speak. So the numbers keep coming up, and they're coming up, and they're increasing slowly but surely. And for countries including Egypt, Algeria, South Africa, and Morocco, account for more than half of the novel coronavirus cases on the continent. 7 people have died from COVID-19 in Africa, 4 in Nigeria, 2 in Egypt, and 1 in Morocco. And also the number of confirmed coronavirus cases in Egypt is around 126, and South Africa has the second highest coronavirus numbers on the continent with 62 cases so far, and also Ghana with 6 confirmed cases and spread of the virus, which has killed 6,500 people globally and sickened more than 175,000 people globally. So these are very serious statistics, and for us to curb the scourge of this coronavirus, then we all have to understand we have a stake. People are very aware in this office. I can't even tell you. It's like the sanitizer has become the new best thing around here. I don't know. It's even become an obsession, because when I read through the sanitizer and they said, you can if you sanitize yourself one time, it can go for 12 hours. But people around here, I think they've heard the call by the president and the Ministry of Health, and they just took it to the next level. You always see people like this at this place, so we are safe, and at least a few Kenyans across and Africans across the globe, but still that is just a few minority. A lot of people don't really understand the effects of this virus. I don't know if or maybe it's just the circumstances, but they really don't understand. So you hear a lot of people saying, you know what, we'll just leave it to God. We'll just pray and we'll be fine. I mean, what can we do? What can we do to protect ourselves? We just leave everything to God and we'll pray and we'll be fine. And I'm thinking, no, because yesterday I took a cab here, and that is what the cab driver was thank God I sat on the back seat, and before I got in, I sanitized myself. As I said, it has become an obsession over here. And so the more you do it, the more you realize, okay, I have to keep doing it. So we have to make sure that we're even doing it in a normal way, so that it does not become OCD like, as it appears now. Kenyans are really into it, for those who can afford and have gotten the information about this virus. And he was telling me, you know what, we just need to pray and we'll be fine. And I thought, are you serious? As much as we need to pray and we'll be fine, I think also in the Bible, I'm a Christian, the Bible says God also helps those who help themselves. So as much as you really hope that you'll be fine where you are, can you take the measures to ensure that you're safe? Can you keep yourself out of danger? Can you ensure that where you are is clean? Can you ensure you wash your hands every time you come into contact with people or something from outside, or just before you even put your hands in your face, and before it's just basic hygiene that I think if people would go back to, then it will eliminate the spread of this virus. And so it's very interesting. As I said earlier, 348 coronavirus cases in 27 African countries have been confirmed, and so we still have and the cases still continue to grow as we speak. So yesterday, Mutahi Kagwe, that is the Cabinet Secretary for Health, had also a press conference where they announced now Kenya has the 4th patient. So in Kenya, we have 4 cases that have been confirmed positive for the coronavirus. We don't have any deaths yet, thank God. And the patients are out of danger, so they're being monitored and treated. And then they're still being monitored until the 14 days are over, then they can be released. So while Mr. Mutahi Kagwe, the CS for Health, was having this press conference, he also brought up very important information, and he said there's now a toll-free number, 719, that Kenyans can call in case you suspect that you're suffering from the coronavirus, or in case you know somebody who is exhibiting the symptoms of coronavirus. I'm telling you, now even if you're at a public place, even just sneezing, which has been said to be one of the ways of spreading this illness, even if it's just an allergy, like me, I have allergic reactions to dust and cold sometimes, and it irritates my nostrils, but even a sneeze is enough to have people run away from you. So people have become very paranoid, and for good reason. So it's better safe than sorry. So I understand. And so he said there is a toll-free number, 719, that Kenyans can call, and he also appealed for calm vigilance and care. And he said the rising cost of the sanitizers that President Uhuru Kenyatta also addressed this morning, calling on the traders who have increased the prices of these very vital, products that Kenyans need right now to keep them safe and clean. He said, President Uhuru Kenyatta said that is very immoral and also it's criminal according to the laws of this country. It's not acceptable. And yesterday, the CS for Health, Mr. Mutahi Kagwe, while addressing the nation, I think he also touched on this matter. And he said the thing that Kenya should do perhaps to beat these immoral traders is just buy the soap. You don't even need the Dettol, the fancy, bathing soaps, the antiseptics. No, just go buy a normal bar of soap, which everybody can afford. Wash your hands properly with running water, I think. And that's it, and you're safe. So if Kenyans would boycott these products, and then the supply, the law of supply and demand, when there's a lot of demand now and the supply is low, then it increases the value or the prices of the thing. So when they'll see that not so many Kenyans are going for this, instead are going for the normal soaps, perhaps they will relook into how they start pricing these things. And you know what, I second what the president said. This is very immoral. If you are going to take advantage of Kenyans or Africans or elsewhere in the world, because there's also this case of an individual, I think in Tennessee state there in the US, who had gone to nearly every store in the county that he lived and bought all the sanitizers. Then he started pricing them on eBay 4 times the price. And because people were at a panic mode, this is not something that perhaps you just had a small people don't buy sanitizers like that. You wash your hands with soap and you're okay, So, and very few people carry around sanitizers or are really big in sanitizers. And so he bought all of them and then he started selling them on eBay. And I think he was arrested and charged for what they termed as, I can't remember the exact term, but there's a term for that. And so you see when people do things like this, taking advantage of very unfortunate situation, I think that is not right. And it's not just happening here in Kenya, but it's also happening across the world. Like, was it on Monday? I was at a supermarket at the CBD. I went to get a few supplies, not for the hand sanitizer, but for other things, household stuff. And so the shelf where the hand sanitizers were, I think there were only 10 bottles that were remaining. And a certain lady had come and taken all these bottles. And there were other Kenyans who had come to buy the same product, and so there was a fight ensued, and they're saying, you cannot have all of this. Why don't we just even just keep 2 and give the rest to one to the rest of us who also need the same product? And she was like, no, I've come first come first served. She took all the 10 bottles. I don't know how that little scuffle ended, but other Kenyans were not very happy. So that is very selfish. If you think you're the only person who's going to keep themselves, who has to keep themselves, safe and sanitized, and you don't care about it, what happened to looking out for our neighbors and to love our neighbors as we love ourselves? Kenya, 80% of the population, we are considered Christians, but the things that happen in this country are very far off the teaching that you expect we should be following. And so she took all the 10. I don't know if she was allowed to live with all of them, but other Kenyans who really needed a few bottles from what she had taken. She had cleared the whole shelf, and of course, whatever she was buying was actually overpriced. The overpricing that President Uhuru Kenyatta is talking about. So I don't know if she was going to sell them or she was just going to pack them in the house for her to use. And 10 bottles, and they're big bottles. I don't know how long that was going to take her. I don't know how big the family is. It's just very interesting and behavior sometimes people have. But all of this comes from the panic and the anxiety that the public is suffering from. Every day you wake up, I don't even want to watch the international channels anymore, because I'd wake up in the morning, I'll check what is happening on Al Jazeera, what is happening on CNN, what is happening in our local news, and all you see is just a COVID-19, people are dying, and so if you keep watching this stuff, you get a level of anxiety. And so I've been trying to just stay away from this, and so I just go to the movie channel, which I hardly watch. I get home, I don't even have the time, but just stay away, take a break, from from watching this. And those are just some of the measures that can help you really cope during these very, uncertain times. Stay away from watching this news of COVID-19 as long as you have the important information that you need. I think not being exposed to too much heavy information about this might actually help you calm yourself down, because you keep watching them. I know you watch them and you become very anxious. So yesterday also we saw the Ministry of Education there, while the CS for Health was giving this press conference yesterday afternoon. I think we streamed it because it happened when we were having our afternoon show, and the CS for Health mentioned that the Ministry of Health through the CS of the Ministry of Water, through the CS of Water, Madam Cecily Karaoke, is saying that the Ministry of Water is trying to put water points in different parts of the country. I don't know if it's in Nairobi or major urban centers for hand washing, and put there with soap, I guess. And also the Ministry of Health encouraged the Ministry of Water to make sure that even for the Kenyans who had their water cut off for lack of payment, this is not the time to keep the taps dry. He pleaded with the Ministry of Water to ensure that these taps are opened so that Kenyans are able to access water in plenty, because soap and water, it can do wonders, and is one of the ways of fighting the spread of this virus. So he was just encouraging the Ministry of Water to see how they can do that, and apparently through the CSCCD Karaoke, that is something that he's looking to do. To see that Kenyans can, the waters can keep flowing, even for those who have not paid for their water bills. Come on, Kenyans, pay for your water bills. There are people who perhaps struggle because of out of circumstances. Maybe something has happened and has affected the manner in which, they even pay their bills. But there are others who just don't pay for the sake of not paying. And I know a couple of good ones. So Kenyans, come on now. It's all about good manners. And one of those is just pay for the bills. You've used that water, you've used for that electricity. Just pay for the bills. And for those who have had their water disconnected, the Ministry of Water will ensure that these taps no longer remain, dry, because it is important for them to access this very vital and important commodity, so that the spread of this virus can be minimized by all means possible. So yesterday we had a look at this coronavirus. Just keep it here another 10 or so minutes ago, and we shall come on top of the hour and look at other news making headlines across Africa. We were just looking at that press conference that happened in State House just a few moments ago. President Uhuru Kenyatta was joined by the Kenya Bankers Association, I'm assuming because they're all bankers, and led by the Central Bank of Kenya, Governor Mr. Patrick Njoroge, and they were just telling the president and indeed the nation the measures in which the banks have taken to help reduce the pandemic, the spread of the pandemic. And one of the key things that Kenyans have been encouraged since the start of the first case that was announced last Friday, the government came out and said, Kenyans, it is time that we embraced more cashless transactions. So the banks have come out today and they're insisting, can you just transact through your phone? And even Safaricom yesterday came out and said they've reduced transactions less than 1,000 shillings, the transaction fee. And something else very important, I think I must have missed that I think is also very, very, very important. They've said through that there will be money that you're transferring from your bank to your phone, to the mobile wallet, as they call it, will be zero rated. So that fee that you're charged when you're transferring money from your bank app on your phone at your mobile money wallet, it will be zero rated. So I think that is something that personally I think I'll be celebrating today, and I'll try to make a transaction just for the sake of it. But I know this will go a long way in easing up the pressure already that Kenyans have begun feeling in terms of the economic and the financial impact that has been brought about by the COVID-19. And so Very interesting. Where was it? So now this COVID-19, I know Kenyans are wondering, this COVID-19, what is this? Why even the name COVID-19? Or just for those who might not have known what this means. Now the virus has been named SARS-CoV-2, and the disease it causes has been named coronavirus disease 2019. So the COVID-19 comes from the coronavirus disease 2019. All right. So that is where the name COVID-19 comes from. And of course, on January 30th, 2020, the International Health Regulations Emergency Committee of the World Health Organization declared the outbreak a public health emergency of international concern, of course. And on January 31st, Health and Human Services Secretary Alex M. Azar too declared a public health emergency that was in the United States to aid the nation's healthcare community and, of course, the rest of the world. And we saw that on March 11th, World Health Organization declared the COVID-19 a pandemic. And the coronaviruses are a large family of viruses that are common in people and many different species of animals, including camels, cattle, cats, and birds. So it is thought, it has been widely thought, that the first person who contracted this disease contracted it from the animals. And you know, Chinese, they eat just about everything. Sometimes we watch very weird food shows here. A lot of guys here, they just obsessed with these very weird food shows they watch. And those are just some of the things they watch here. So a few times I take a glimpse are the things that, a lot of Asians eat, especially the Chinese. My goodness, I would not even, it's just out of this world. So this disease is thought to have come from these animals, and they're saying the animal species include camels, and I'm surprised that cattle is also here, and cats and birds. All right, so if you think you're eating beef and you're safe, but I guess the beef that we eat it's normal, has gone through a test by the Ministry of Health and Sanitation and Food and in the different countries, so I'm not worried about that at all. And really, animal coronavirus can infect people and then spread between people, such as what happened in the Middle Eastern, that happened a few years ago in 2012, and now with this new virus named SARS-CoV-2. Now the SARS-CoV-2 virus is a beta coronavirus like MERS-CoV and SARS-CoV. All three of these viruses have their origins in bats. You know, the bat, the small animal, so that is where they have their origin from. The consequences from the US patients that have been under monitor are similar to the ones that China initially posted, suggesting as a likely single recent emergence of this virus from an animal reservoir. People, stay away from the bats. If you know, there are things that God never meant for us to eat, and they're called delicacy, and I understand, but come on now. Let's just stay away from this. Let's just, for now, if you're traveling outside, just don't. If you don't have to, just eat vegetables then, so because this is where it has originated from, and now the whole world has to deal with somebody having decided bat was something they wanted to eat and they contracted this illness, and now the whole world is under lock, because that is what is happening. And as I said there earlier, a number of African countries are recording new infections. And what is really interesting is Nigeria has reported its third patient, I think yesterday. And yesterday, as I was here reading the news, I think we were all shocked when I was going through that news item about, Nigerian government saying all flights from China, Japan, South Korea, name it, Iran, all the places that have been affected by this virus are actually welcome to fly into Nigeria. And the government said it doesn't matter. If these people come here, we'll just test them and that's it. But they can come in the country, they're welcome. And then before you know it, a few moments later, Nigeria has now recorded the third patient, and we don't know how many will come up after this. So if that is not a red flag enough for President Muhammadu Buhari, then stop putting the lives of your people in danger. So I'll take a very short break. I think it's just a few minutes on top of the hour. There's something before I leave here, because we are also supposed to look at, the headlines before I leave. I think we'll look at the headlines of the leading newspaper here in Kenya today. And on the Standard newspaper, freeze taxes to save Kenyans. MPs tell Uhuru, and the president declares National Prayer Day as leaders and investors ask government to create a crisis fund, suspend taxes and cut bank lending rates to cushion citizens for impact of coronavirus lockdown. And I think the banks have responded through that press conference that happened a while ago, the banks in Kenya, and they've come out and said, even for the small traders, or even for people who have taken loans in the bank, you can walk into your bank and explain yourself, and banks will ensure that Kenyans, are not really. The banks will be understanding. That is according to what they've said. They have pledged this morning. So Kenyans, if you are affected or you're taking a loan for your small business here, and because of now the circumstances, your business is not doing well, just walk into your bank and talk to them, and you can reorganize your payment schedule and readjust it appropriately, because the banks have given us their word. Isn't this really, really something lovely, I think? And I know a lot of, especially the small scale and the middle scale traders here in the country, entrepreneurs, will really appreciate this move by the banks. And even for those who are taking personal loans, maybe you're taking a mortgage, maybe you're taking a car loan, whatever kind of education, whatever it is. And now perhaps you are self-employed or otherwise, if you're employed in the corporate world, then it's different. But we've seen now even some hotels closing, and the tourism industry has been greatly affected. So some hotels will start laying off people. As a matter of fact, they have started. So you're told just stay at home until this is figured out. And while you're staying at home, they're not going to pay you because they can't pay you. They're not making money. So in case you're taking a loan there to service whatever it is that you're taking a loan for, then you'll be affected. So they're saying in such a situation, just go to your bank, talk to them. And for the first time, our banks will be wearing a human face. So they'll be understanding to you. So please take advantage of that. All right, if you have been affected, but not advantage in the way the traders are taking advantage of Kenyans and increasing the prices of the sanitizers, but just take advantage of the goodwill and go explain yourself, and the banks will be able to listen, and they're saying they're doing this to ensure that Kenyans, for the interest of the people of Kenya and for the interest of the country. All right, so here these people are saying that the government should suspend taxes. And if the government suspends taxes, what is the government supposed to run on? I think the government depends on these taxes. I think this is a very dicey situation, even for the government itself, even as it continues to think of ways and invent ways. Remember, nobody has been in this position before. We are all learning as we evolve to deal and create our new normal and just try to see. And the governments are really have to face these new realities as much as the rest of the citizens have to. And now they have to find ways to cope and to keep the country running. And the governments, they depend on the taxes. So a group of investors and leaders here are coming out and calling on the government to suspend taxes. I don't know if that will be possible, because we depend on those taxes for this country to run. We depend on these taxes for this country to run. So I don't know. I don't know if that is just too much to ask. I don't know how much the government will be able to give in terms of that. And so the Treasury Cabinet Secretary Ukur Yatani here, he is quoted to have said, "We shall have a comprehensive view of the situation and proposal on the way forward by Thursday." So let's just wait to how our Treasury will respond to that call for the government to cut on taxes. Just a few minutes before the top of the hour. Remember, after that, I shall be coming back with Diaspora Dispatches, where we shall be looking at other news-making headlines across Africa. And please, just keep it here. We have very, very amazing or interesting or juicy stories from across Africa that it will be a pleasure to share with you. Now, outside of the coronavirus, of course, like we need a break. So the front pages of the Star, the U.S. test COVID-19 vaccine as Kenya reports a fourth case. And apparently the US has tested for, they're trying out the new vaccine for coronavirus. I don't know how much they've gone in that, but the story is on page 4 and 5 of the Star newspaper. And on the front page is Steve Kenyatta to lead special coronavirus prayers on Saturday. Now listen, I'm sure the president will be in State House, and I'm sure the prayers will be in State House. As we have seen the way the meeting today was conducted, I think they sat a meter apart. The setting was very interesting, so I'm not hoping to see a crowd there gathered anywhere. So I think the prayers will be led from the State House of Kenya. And massive job losses feared as flour exports drop by 50%. A lot of our flowers find their way to Europe and the rest of the world, and so the flour industry in this country is really suffering. In fact, matter of fact, a lot of these companies have closed down. I was watching that news yesterday. So see, the financial and implications and the economic implications are already beginning to be felt. So this move this morning by the bankers to cushion Kenyans, I think other sectors also needs to borrow a leave and see how they can now continue then with ensuring that Kenyans don't get to suffer, and as the President Uhuru Kenyatta put it, suffer from a problem of a making that is not their own. Kenyans did not decide now we require coronavirus to come here, so let's not punish Kenyans. They're already going through enough, and others are being laid off, and other situations are cropping up. So it's very a challenging situation even for the government. And the Daily Nation here says negative test woman rushed back to ward, and it continues to say after being allowed to leave the isolation unit on Sunday, patient says she developed flu symptoms at night. She tried to call the hotlines provided. She's saying it did not go through. So she called a taxi, returned to the hospital, and was readmitted. I don't know if she covered herself while she called this taxi, and I don't know if she told this taxi that she had been isolated before for coronavirus. You see how people take risks, and bizarre tale of love behind bars. Those are just some of the news on the Daily Nation newspaper this morning. And so Good Morning Africa comes to an end. I'll be back with Diaspora Dispatches. Let me see you on the other side of the break. My name is Miriam Mugutu. Good afternoon.